Welcome to the new Chemist Podcast. We're glad you're listening. Feel free to download this podcast on Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify. Here on the new Chemist, we discuss chemistry, which simply put is the science of change, as well as careers, community, research, and COVID 19. We're happy you're tuning in. My guest today is Joe Dickman. Thanks for joining me today. It is so good to hear from you. Just briefly, I'll inform my audience about you. Joe Dickman is a good colleague and friend of mine. We attended Taylor University together. He currently is attending University of Wisconsin-Madison Medical School. We did research together under Dr. Daniel King, and he is an intelligent young man. It is so good to have him as a guest today on this podcast. Please welcome Joe Dickman. Thanks, Joe, for joining me today. It's good to have you here.
Hey, thanks so much. It's good to be here.
Yeah, dude, definitely. Joe is a good colleague of mine from Taylor University, so it's always a pleasure to have him on as a guest. So, what have been your long-standing interest in the field of science?
Long-standing. I remember telling my second grade teacher that I wanted to be a scientist when I was, when I was in second grade. It's so interesting to think about what got me interested in science, as a career. And in some ways, I know that medicine isn't exactly science. It's not maybe chemistry, but there's a lot of science, I think in medicine. I would say that, especially, we really want to go back to the beginning, in second grade. When I told my second grade teacher what I wanted to be when I grew up, and I told her I wanted to be a scientist, I think the image I had in my mind was a guy in a lab coat mixing test tubes together, and then there being explosions.
Okay, cool. Sounds like demo night at Taylor.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, man. Yeah, so yeah.
I'd be, when I came to Taylor, David, I was a biology chemistry double major, and I quickly realized that, I could do just biochemistry, and it would have a lot less classes required. And here's another thing. Although there are parts of biology I really like, as far as being part of the chemistry department, I think I watched demo day my freshman year. Of course, they didn't let the freshmen do the demos. And I watched, Dr. Kroll blow up those hydrogen balloons, and I think I knew pretty much right then and there that was going to be the department I wanted to be associated with. The ones that were blowing up the balloons.
Yeah, dude, that's cool. So given all the challenges that you probably have faced, how do you maintain view of the bigger picture in your career and in your life in general? How do you see the forest for the trees?
That's such a great question. And David, when in any sort of higher education, and I think that medicine, especially in the United States, can maybe even more than most. But I think it really applies anywhere. There's a danger, I think, in looking at just the step you're on. And it's so funny. In Hoosiers, have you ever seen that movie, the basketball movie? You should really watch it, David.
Yeah, definitely.
It's sort of it's an Indiana movie. Actually, my mom was an extra in that movie, if you can believe it, when it was filmed.
Okay.
It's about basketball. It's about the smallest school. So actually, up until 2000, the early 2000s, the Indiana State basketball tournament was open to all schools. So, there were no divisions, is what I mean to say. So, like, there was no D1 school or, a Division A is what we call them in Wisconsin. Big schools didn't compete against big schools. Big schools could compete against much smaller schools. So in Hoosiers, it's about the smallest school. They had like 100 kids who won the state tournament against schools that were much bigger. Actually, if you remember Ron, the guy at Taylor who he would swipe the cards
Yeah,
at the lunch line.
yeah, I
So
think so.
sometimes he was a little grumpy, but actually he went to Muncie Central High School. He was the one who played Milan High School. That would be the little high school in that movie. And in real life, that there's a Wikipedia article on it called the Milan High School State Basketball Run.
So you were
Um,
saying?
yes. Anyway, in that movie, the coach says in tournament play, there's a tradition we only look at we only look at one step at a time, and you don't you always focus on just winning that one step. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
You focus on beating the team, and you don't think about who you'll be playing until after you've beaten the team that is you're immediately going to be playing.
Yeah, true.
And I think that if you think about your career, especially your educational career, like that, it can get pretty discouraging. And the way I think I've been more blessed than most to have a physician father and a physician grandfather. I think the best way to keep my eyes on the goal, and not get bogged down into thinking about it step by step, is to sort of look at their practice.
Yeah, dude. I know what you mean. I know exactly what you mean.
You go home and he's got his schedule, and you know what life is like for him. And certainly your privilege is sort of the same way. I know your dad's a pediatrician. Yeah, that's right. Back in the family islands in Bahamas, and so I'm sure when you go home, it's sort of the same thing. You talk with him about how the practice is going, and that sort of reminds you what you've got your eyes set on.
Yeah.
Right now I've got graduate from medical school, and before that, 2 years ago, it was get into medical school, graduate Taylor.
Yeah.
And if I didn't have it would be so discouraging to just be thinking about those littler steps, although they're actually pretty big, when you're right in them.
Yeah, I know.
And think about the main goal, which in the case of Hoosiers, win the state tournament, instead of the littler battle of just win that one game, which of course is important in its own right, but you always got to have your eyes set on that big picture.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, that's good. So, how did you seek or find the right environment for you to thrive scientifically and intellectually? Why did you choose Taylor? That's another way. In other words, why did you choose Taylor, and why did you choose Medical College of Wisconsin or the Medical College at Wisconsin-Madison or whatever it's called?
Yeah. I'm a University of Wisconsin School of Medicine and Public Health.
Okay.
That's their big thing. They're so proud that they've got the public health in there. But anyway, to the main question here, what brought me to Taylor, and as far as what got me interested in medicine specifically, I talked about what got me interested in science. My second grade teacher, Mrs. Zimmerman. I would say for medicine specifically, it'd probably be my dad. Is probably my biggest inspiration as far as that career goal. But how did I attract people? It hasn't just been him, obviously, in my educational career. Even in high school, I was really blessed with a lot of teachers that I thought really fostered a love of learning. And while they didn't maybe teach me medicine, I think they taught me how to learn, and that's obviously important. As far as Taylor is concerned, I heard about Taylor because my parents met at Taylor. Both of them are Taylor grads.
Okay, same with my parents.
My dad graduated with Kevin Diller and Dr. Mike Hammond, the provost of Taylor, who's the current provost of Taylor right now.
Okay.
And they graduated in 93.
Okay.
So I'd say that's sort of what brought me to Taylor. Was a desire to sort of follow in my dad's footsteps. I knew Taylor treated him pretty well, and he got into medical school, going to Taylor. So I figured that would be good for me as well.
Yeah, that's true.
And David, we didn't know each other my freshman year because I think you were at Georgia Tech. Is that where you were?
Yeah, that's where I was.
But if in some ways that's almost a blessing because I really feel like I wasn't I wasn't doing that well. Spiritually or maybe even mentally my freshman year.
Oh wow.
And it was sort of a struggle for me. I really miss my parents. I'm sure you can identify, your parents are in the Bahamas. Well, mine were in Wisconsin, so they're not even that far away comparably, but they're still like a 7 or 8 hour drive.
Yeah,
I didn't get to see them throughout the school year.
Mm-hmm.
So it was pretty hard on me, just, feeling a little homesick.
Mm-hmm.
And the only thing really that kept me at Taylor, really a few things, but one of them was Dr. Majors. He taught the freshman labs at Taylor, and he really instilled in me a love of chemistry, and a love specifically of Taylor's chemistry program, and that's what kept me there. And of course, after I got through that first year, I really ended up liking it quite a bit. And I got to, what was that?
What caused the change? What caused the change from you not liking it to liking it?
Well, for one thing, my then girlfriend, now wife, came to Taylor. So that helped.
Okay, that's fair.
That definitely helped.
Okay, that's fair.
And I got right with God in a lot of ways, I think, after that. So that certainly helped as well.
Okay.
And also, I got put in classes with other great professors. You've taken organic chemistry with Dr. Leroy Kroll, but also taking analytical chemistry with Dr. King was huge. And even into my junior year, I really have got only good things to say for all of the professors there at the chemistry department. And as far as what I think contributed to me staying, it would really be, I thought their instruction was just so high quality. And also I thought that my peers there were great. David, I really have to say it was great getting to know you, people like Hannah Ewing, Erica Mitchell, Andrew Carter. All of you guys really helped me a lot when I was there. So yeah, I guess I don't know. I feel like God just blessed me. I don't really feel like I earned or sought you guys out. In some ways, you guys sought me out. So thank you for that.
Yeah, dude. I completely agree with you. Yeah, for me, I don't claim perfection in any way, shape, or form, and I make my share a bit of mistakes. So I don't think I've earned. Some things, but I'm grateful for what I do have, and I'm grateful for the people I've met. So yeah, dude, definitely. I share the same sentiments. I'm grateful for knowing y'all at Taylor, and yeah, it was a good time. So why did you choose University of Wisconsin-Madison for medical school?
Well, for one thing, they were one of only 2 schools to accept me, and another thing is that there, as much as I love Taylor, and I really did, David, it really blessed me in so many ways, and thank you, because you were a part of it. But I was looking to get a little bit closer to home, and Madison is only an hour drive from
that must be nice.
my house.
That must be nice.
It is very nice. And actually, I'm sitting in my parents' house right now. The huge map in the background is their map.
Okay, cool. Yeah, man. So, Joe, how do you maintain a balanced life given all your responsibilities and accomplishments as a medical student, as someone who graduated from Taylor? All these accomplishments and your responsibilities now as someone who's going to eventually have a family. How are you maintaining balance, or trying to maintain balance, I should say?
Yeah, well, David, it's been pretty hard to maintain balance. Medical school is pretty demanding, even more demanding than I think I was anticipating.
Yeah.
My wife is a great resource for me for maintaining balance. In the era of COVID, we both sort of work from home. Most of my lectures are online, and she sort of works remote. And we share an office. So it's really good having a conversational partner throughout the day. If I want to talk to someone, I got someone right there.
Yeah.
It's great. On the weekends, I guess it's hard not to be able to go out maybe as much as we could have without the pandemic going on. But having that person there, we watch movies together. She's a great conversationalist. So I think that's really how.
Very good. So, Joe, what would you say has contributed most to your success as a student?
My wife and my teachers.
Okay.
Especially right now. Medical school is pretty expensive in the United States. and because I'm married to just a great wife, I get the privilege of sort of being a parasite on her financially. So she pays for my my room and board and
Okay.
my medical expenses.
Okay, Joe. Okay, that's cool. That's cool. That's cool. Yeah, dude. Definitely family and a professional community does help.
Yeah, and she's
So
that social support I was talking about, you know.
yeah, dude, you
And
need that. You need that.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. And my teachers too. You know, I couldn't ask for better teachers at Taylor and at UW-Madison. So.
Yeah, dude. For me, my social support comes from different areas. I don't know. For me, my social support during this time has come from me going to church as well as interacting with some of the Christian people on campus and talking to my family from home, and then a few people from the cohort, but that's about it.
Mm.
Yeah. Yep. So, how do you maintain vision and teamwork in your environment?
You know, that's a really good question, David, and I'm not sure that I'm doing that great of a job. But in my defense, I think it's pretty hard to do a good job in this era of COVID. You know,
Yeah, dude, I agree. I agree, Joe. I agree. I completely agree. Yeah.
I know that, you know, healthcare and medicine is a team sport, you know, and
Mm-hmm.
I wish I could involve my fellow medical students a little bit more, but you know, we're not really supposed to meet outside of you know, very specific circumstances. So yeah, I really don't know how well I meet that ideal.
Okay.
But I think I got room to improve, and when we're
Good.
all vaccinated, hopefully that'll change.
Okay, dude, that's fine. That's completely fine. Joe, I respect that you being like your normal self. You're being completely honest and upfront, which is something I respect. So, why did you choose biochemistry as a field to major in? You spoke about how you were interested in biology and chemistry, but was there something specific or any particular topic of interest that caused you to choose that as a major?
Well, I've already talked about how the explosions on demo day were a
Yeah,
big.
yeah, yeah. Those are always good.
Um, you know, I really don't. The other reason is so much, you know, lamer.
Yeah.
But I really was enjoying. You know, I talked about how my freshman year was hard, and it really was. One thing though that I'm blessed to say it was not really academically that bad for me.
Okay.
Or at least, you know, it was a college class, so at the collegiate level, you know, classes are challenging, but
Mhm.
and they were challenging for me, but I enjoyed academic success in it. And I thought to myself, you know, if I can perform pretty well in these classes,
Mhm.
you know, I might as well cultivate that. So, you know, the explosions and the fact that I was enjoying some academic success in there as well, and seemed to have a knack for it.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. So, um, as we conclude, um, do you have any advice for those wanting to pursue the field you are currently studying in?
Yeah, you know, we talked about the tournament play and how you don't. I think the best advice, actually, David, is sort of related to that answer. I think the best thing you can do is to not get locked down into just thinking about the step you're on. You got to
Mhm.
keep your eye on the main goal. You know,
Yeah.
so if medicine is what you want to study, and yes, you have to think strategically. How can I get into medical school? And you have to think, how can I win the game? You know, the littler game right now to
Mhm.
contribute to that main goal. You know,
Yeah.
2 years ago it was how can I get into medical school? How can I get my bachelor's degree? That type of thing, and working towards that. But at the
Mhm.
same time, never losing sight of the fact that smaller goal is contributing to the larger goal of being an attending physician. You
Yeah.
know, so I
Very
think
good.
that's probably the thing. My best advice is try to keep your eye on the prize there. And I know not everyone is blessed with, you know, a physician parents to help them
Yeah.
sort of keep your eye on the prize. I think my goal to you would be find some kind of physician mentor. You know,
Uh-huh. Mhm. Yeah.
for
I
me,
agree.
it was my dad, and it's super easy for me. I'm sorry, it's not easy for everyone. Find a physician mentor.
Mhm.
Spend time with them. You know, in the summer or when you're home.
Mhm.
That way you can really help you keep your eye on the prize.
Yeah, I agree.
Every single person in medical school that I have met and talked to a lot about this, not all of them have parents as physicians. Actually, very few of them do. All of them have got physician mentors that they look up to.
Yeah.
Find a physician mentor. If medicine's your goal, find a physician mentor.
Mhm.
Talk with them, spend time with them, shadow them. There can be great resources in so many ways.
Yeah, I agree, dude. I agree on so many levels because for me, even when it's challenging in graduate school, knowing having parents who've completed graduate school, it does provide context for me and it allows me to put my challenges in a context and understand that if they could do it, then I could do it as well. And then also, keeping your eyes on the prize. That you know, even from me, or me, both you and I have the same faith tradition. So even in our faith, one of the things that we are, one of the things that we are taught is, fix your eyes on what you believe and who you believe in. So yeah, dude, that's definitely a good thing. So what has been some of the most beneficial advice you have received?
What was that, David?
What has been some of the most beneficial advice you have received?
This is a quote from a book, but
Okay.
my wife has told me this before.
Mm-hmm.
The quote goes something like, "Things are rarely as bad as they seem."
Okay.
And for me personally, I can be prone to being a little bit of a pessimistic thinker, especially in regards to my career. I don't know if you could tell us, but in college, I was always afraid that I wasn't going to get to medical school, or it was going to be a big struggle for me. You know what I'm saying?
Okay. Yeah.
And my wife gave me that bit of advice. And the quote comes from To Kill a Mockingbird. Atticus says it to Scout. That things are never as bad as they seem. So if you're prone to, like me, sort of doomsday thinking, that can be maybe something that can help lift you out of that.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, dude. I agree with that as well because, you know, when you start concentrating on the negative things that are happening, it could lead to a downward spiral.
Mhm.
Yeah. So you have to, again, and these are the things that center my thinking and kind of keep me grounded from slipping into like a bunch of other extraneous things. But you know, it says one of the things that we taught in the faith tradition is to be aware of what you're thinking about, be aware of what you're
Mhm.
thinking and how you're thinking. So I completely agree. But Joe, it was definitely good to have you on, and thanks again for joining me.
Hey, thank you.
Thanks for listening. We're glad you were able to tune into this podcast. Once again, this is The New Chemist, where we discuss chemistry, which simply put is the science of change, as well as the other sciences, careers, community, research, and COVID-19. Thanks again for listening. Note, the views on this podcast represent those of my guests and I.